Today on Addicted to Gear, we're going to be looking at a really cool guitar kit that you can build from scratch. Stay tuned. Hey, welcome back to Addicted to Gear. As you guys know, I love building guitars. I love playing guitars, and personally, I get more satisfaction out of building my own guitar than just buying one off the shelf sometimes. So today I want to talk about a really cool guitar kit that I purchased for my next guitar project. Before I jump into the guitar kit, I want to just give you a little bit of background as to what kind of guitar I want to build. I initially bought this guitar that you probably saw on my previous guitar review. This is a Kramer Beretta Special in a kind of salmon red color, reddish pink. I'm not really sure. Anyways, the color didn't matter to me at the time because I intended to turn this into an EVH style guitar with the full striped paint job and everything. So the color wouldn't necessarily be an issue. The thing is, after playing this guitar for a while, I really like it and I don't feel like ruining it. So I figured the next thing to do would be to probably buy another kit that would suit my needs for what I was looking for in order to build this EVH project guitar. So without further ado, let's take a look at what you get with the kit. Now, if you've never built a guitar kit before, you will typically receive your guitar kit in a box like this with all the parts and components you will need to be able to put your guitar kit together. One word of warning: the kits that you buy from different suppliers online are not all created equal. There are better and worse quality kits out there, so you have to make sure that you buy one from a reputable dealer. Otherwise, you might get parts that don't necessarily fit together very well or are not necessarily CNC'd all that well. Now, since I already have experimented with Guitar World kits, I can vouch for the quality. The ones that I've received so far have been put together very nicely. So let's take the body out of this box and have a look at what we're getting here. This body is very similar to the one you saw on my Kramer Beretta Special in the sense that it is a one pickup body design. It has one knob and it has a routing cut for a Floyd Rose type bridge, which is basically what I want to put on this kit. Now, the front of this kit has a very nice quilt veneer top. It's only a veneer, so it's very thin. But in my particular case, I will not be showcasing this veneer in this build because I'm going to be covering it with paint. I know a lot of you might be disappointed, and honestly, I really do think that this quilt veneer would be really nice if I would just stain it. But I really want to build this striped EVH guitar, and so I'm going to sacrifice the veneered top for the paint job that I'm going to be putting on this guitar. I still think it's going to look pretty rock and roll once I'm done. Now, one of the other things that I want to point out with this kit is that you do have this little notch in the bottom of the neck pocket right here, which is not something that you normally get on all these type of kits that are sort of designed to be put together to be able to emulate that EVH guitar. Eddie's guitars have constantly morphed over time and they always look different. If you compare different shots of different guitars taken at different times, they kind of continue to morph and evolve. So it's very hard to pinpoint a specific look. I'm not trying to make this a one-to-one copy because I really don't have the time and effort. I don't have the luxury of time and I really don't want to put in that much effort. I just want it to be a pretty close facsimile of what you would see as an EVH, let's say Kramer 5150 type guitar build. If you want to make this build for yourself and you don't want to have the EVH paint job, you can definitely make this into a very nice alternate style Kramer type guitar with a beautiful finish on the quilt. The back of the guitar is pretty straightforward. We can see the carve is neatly done here. They do give you the space here to put that one volume pot. There's not much room there to put anything else, and there's really no other way of putting in other types of switching unless you want to route it out for yourself, which I really don't want to do in this particular case. Now, the body itself is very nicely cut. It's finished so that all you really have to do is lightly sand the body. Perhaps you want to seal it, especially in the back, because the grain, it will absorb a lot of paint and finish. So you can definitely put in some seal there, lightly sand it, and you're pretty much ready to prime it and paint it. What I look for in a body like this are any kind of defects. Sometimes you buy bodies like this, which normally come from China anyway, but some plants that produce these types of kits kind of skimp on the quality control, and you can also often see that because the holes are cut very roughly. You might have chip out or burn marks or chatter along the edges of the body, and you don't have that at all in this body. It's very nicely done. The tummy tuck, the armrest are really nicely carved. You don't have any kind of knots or cracks, and there's no real messy glue joints as well. So I'm super happy with the quality of the body so far. But now, of course, the big question is, how does the neck fit within the neck pocket on this guitar body? And is the neck just as good as the body? So let's have a look at that. Here is the guitar neck. As you can see, it's totally made of maple. Both the fretboard and the back of the neck are made of maple. You have the Guitar Kit World stamped, heated stamp on the bottom of the neck, as well as inside the neck pocket of the guitar. I have to say that the headstock, the hockey stick style headstock that you see here, is quite a bit longer than the one that I have on my Kramer Beretta Special. At first I thought that was a little bit odd, but when I compared the headstock with some photos of Eddie's guitars, I did notice that the earlier models did have a headstock that was quite a bit longer, and then later on it was a little bit shorter. So I think it also evolved over time. So I'm happy with this. I don't really mind that it's a bit longer. At first I was considering perhaps, modifying it to match the one that I have on my Kramer, the Beretta Special. But then I saw the pictures and I said, you know what? I don't need all my guitars to be identical, and I thought it would be cool to have it, even though it's a bit long. It's a little bit more of a throwback to the real banana headstock that you saw on the Kramers. The neck is really, really well made. I don't see any issues here in terms of the finish. Super nice sanding job. There's no poly or urethane or anything on this yet, so I can actually finish the neck however I like. And really what I really enjoy doing lately is actually just lightly oiling the neck, applying a little bit of wax, and leaving it all natural. And I find it really ages well. It feels wonderful. And I don't mind if the neck gets a little grimy, because I think it's more rock and roll. And if you look at Eddie's guitar, it's definitely been beat quite a bit. So I think it would work well. Now, the frets on this neck are medium frets. I was expecting to see fret sprout, but these frets are surprisingly well finished. The edges are wonderful. I was also expecting to see like high frets. I was expecting to do a fret job on this neck, but really as I'm sighting down the neck, I don't see any issues. I mean, it will be hard to tell with the naked eye. I really need to use fret rockers to be able to see if the neck actually requires any kind of leveling, but so far this is not the quality I was expecting from a Chinese kit. Honestly, I thought it would be a lot worse and have a lot more rough edges that would need to be fixed. And so far, I'm super happy. The bottom of the neck here is flat. Some guitar kits will give you a little bit of a rounded end of the fretboard. This one is flat. The actual adjustment is here at the bottom, and that's why you have that little notch in the neck pocket, so you have access to this while the neck is on the body, so you don't have to remove it to adjust the neck relief like you do on those reissue Strats. And it actually comes with the locking nut already installed, so that actually saves me a step. Now, the locking nut on this is black. I would have liked to have chrome, but I'm okay with black as well. I don't need it to be a super one-to-one, you know, copy or anything like that. So I like black hardware anyway. I think it looks more rock and roll. The radius of the back of the neck seems to be a rather deeper C shape. I wouldn't say D, but really a little bit deeper than a C, which is really nice and comfortable. And the thickness here at the nut is really nice. So I'm not sure if this is a compound radius or not. I would have to check it with my radius gauges, but I can tell you that the relief is pretty flat. I would say this is probably a 10, maybe even more than, like maybe flatter than that. It could possibly even be a 12. Really nicely made. I'm really happy with the neck. This is the money end of the kit. If your neck is garbage, your kit's pretty much going to be garbage. So I'm happy to report that if you're going to buy one of these Guitar Kit World guitar kits, the necks, at least on this one, is really nicely made. Pre-drilled holes, so you can match it up with the body, and you don't have to mess around with drilling extra holes. It already matches up. A few times I've had guitar kits that were not exactly CNC'd all that well, and there was gaps around the neck, and I want to make sure that's not the case here. So I can honestly tell you that I would have a hard time slipping in a piece of paper in this neck pocket. I'm super happy with it. Fits beautifully. The edges are nicely aligned with the back of the heel here. There's no check when you run your fingers in it. Very nicely done. Everything seems to be super aligned. I think this is gonna make a heck of a kit, guys. I'm really excited. And one other thing I wanna point out to you guys also is that sometimes when you buy these kits, the little relief or sanding here at the bottom of the neck is not always nicely done. Sometimes it's rather abrupt, and the angles that are left with, you know, sanding out the heel are not very comfortable. This one is done very low down and has been nicely rounded over with the sanding process. So I think it's gonna make a really comfortable guitar. I'm happy so far, guys. Let's move on. Now, I'm not gonna lie, most of the times when you buy these kits, where they actually skimp is the quality of the hardware. So I'm not gonna be holding my breath, and I don't expect the hardware to be really high end, but I do want it to be passable. I can always upgrade the hardware later on if the kit does turn out to be a keeper. You never really know with these guitar kits till you're finished with it. Sometimes you expect it to be super nice and then you discover flaws along the way. So my recommendation is to not upgrade the hardware yet. You know, use what you have and then see where you need to actually put in more money. All right, the first thing we're gonna look at is the little back plates. Now, I know that the back plates don't seem like much, but if you don't have decent quality back plates, you have to find a source to buy better quality ones. And in my experience, sometimes they're finding back plates that will fit without necessarily having to drill new holes, fill the old ones, are sometimes not easy to come across. And honestly, I don't want to deal with having to, you know, make new holes and all that kind of stuff. So if the quality of the plates are decent, I tend to keep them. This one looks like they're very nicely done. Black matte plastic, countersunk holes. Overall, very doable, very passable. I think this is a keeper. Now, the pickups in these kits tend to commonly be ceramic pickups. They don't seem to be anything to write home about in terms of quality, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're throwaway components. You actually can be nicely surprised by some of these pickups, especially if you're looking at hotter output. I might just put the pickup directly into the wood like Eddie used to do. And I'll give these pickups a shot and see how they perform. And then if they don't meet my needs, suit my tastes, I have a whole bunch of pickups that I've gathered over time in which I used in other builds that I can choose from, and I'm sure I'll be able to find something that will match this guitar very nicely. Now, as I said, if the guitar turns out to be a keeper, I'll definitely put a really nice pickup in there if I feel it's worthwhile. Now, one of the most important components in the entire kit is going to be the bridge, because if the bridge is poor quality, pot metal, maybe inferior in terms of the fit and finish of the individual components, you might have issues with intonation, you might have issues with keeping the guitar in tune and whatnot. So you have to try and see whether or not the bridge that comes with it is good enough. I often look at the way the little blades are cut where the posts meet the bridge. That's super important. You don't want to see nicks in there. You want to try to see if the bridge is made out of good quality metal. And the unique thing about this particular bridge is the way the actual bridge block has been cut here. I haven't actually seen this. It's got ridges in it and it's kind of unique. I've never seen that before. I know that you can actually upgrade the block and you can get a brass block later on if you want to, but so far it looks like they're not too bad. I can see that there is some writing on the bridge. It says license under Floyd Rose Pats, which I believe means patents. So I'm hoping that this is a step above the Chinese copies that you will normally see that don't tend to be very good, but I do have other Floyd Rose bridges available here if I feel that this one doesn't cut the mustard. Only time will tell. Let's put it together and then we'll see. All right, other than that, the kit includes a set of strings. Now, I don't know what kind of strings these are. I typically don't use these strings. I just use them when I'm setting up the guitar to make sure the neck aligns with the bridge, because I wouldn't really want to waste a good set of strings to do that. But for alignment purposes, you put the low and high E string on the guitar once you're building it to make sure the neck is properly aligned before you screw everything in. And then once you have that location set properly, you could eventually install a good set of final strings. But it does come with the strings. It does come with all of the hardware for the strap locks and whatnot. I don't know if I'll put the big loop kind of strap locks that Eddie had. I'm not really a big fan of that. I prefer the standard strap locks, so I'll probably go with them. They're also black, so they match the rest of the hardware. Other than that, you have the bridge plate, which is also black. Nothing to write home about there. The input or output jack. Again, I think these are all components that could eventually be upgraded if need be, but for the time being, they seem to be okay. Other than that, we have the additional cover plate for the volume pots. We have a very small volume pot here, you know, Chinese style pot. I generally don't really use these much unless I don't have any extra parts available here, but normally I'll try and upgrade these to CTS or Burns pots or something like that, so I don't have to go in there and swap it out later on. You also have all of the screws that you will need to put in all of the covers and plates. And you have the string claw as well as the springs and the posts. So you need all of that, obviously. And they do give you the knob, which is a metal knob. I'll probably get myself an MXR style knob to match what Eddie had on his, but I like to keep these because for future builds I can always reuse these. And then there's the little bar that goes just above the locking nut to keep the strings down. It's important to have those. And then finally we have a set of tuners. So let me just open up the tuners here. They're black and I just want to see if they feel okay. the tuners tend to be all over the place in terms of quality. So I just want to see how they feel. I would say these are rather budget tuners. They're probably not the best. Although they will do the job temporarily, I will probably upgrade the tuners if I feel that the build is a keeper. So I know I'm not the only one looking at building one of these guitar kits. The forums are just, jam-packed with comments and back and forth email exchanges between people that are asking for advice as to where to get cool kits like this, how to go about preparing them and building them and painting them. A word of advice: if you don't have experience painting guitars, do a lot of reading before you actually get started. Otherwise, you could end up with something that is a lot less professional looking, if we can use those terms, at the end of it all. And the last thing you want to do is put in a lot of time and energy painting and sanding and prepping and end up with something that doesn't look very nice. So there's a lot of resources out there, including the Guitar Kits World website. So do a lot of reading and research before you jump into something like this. That being said, if you have built guitars before and you are experienced and you've maybe done some rattle can projects before, a kit like this can be a lot of fun, especially when you start with a solid foundation. And I think this kit, in my opinion, is something that I can highly recommend to others. I think it's going to turn out great and I can't wait to get started. So for those of you who haven't already subscribed to our channel, please consider subscribing. I do put a lot of time, effort, and energy into creating these videos for all my gear addicted friends out there. And I know there's a lot of you out there. So if you like the content that we're producing, give me a thumbs up, consider subscribing. I really do appreciate it. It really helps the channel grow. In the meantime, guys, if you're not already participating in our live Sunday shows, 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, Sunday mornings, is your opportunity to interface with me, ask me all your questions about this kit, on any of the other videos that I've produced in the past, any guitar or gear related questions you may have. That's your chance to come on and ask and join our community of gear addicted friends out there so that we can have a good time, spend some time together and answer your questions. So if you haven't already participated in that, please mark it on your calendar. I look forward to seeing you on Sunday. That's it for now, guys. Thank you. Stay tuned and keep rocking. More to come on Addicted to Gear.